Hey everyone, welcome back to Land Investing Online, where we teach students how to profitably buy and sell vacant land. This is the simplest, least competitive, and most profitable sector of real estate. Visit landinvestingonline.com, click the Start Here page, and follow that process. There's even a free 15-minute consultation, step three. There's a free 15-minute consultation with Ron or myself. So hop on, click the Start Here page on landinvestingonline.com. My name's Daniel Apke. This is my brother and partner, Ron Apke. Welcome back, Ron.
Hey Dan, good to be here.
Today we're going over how do we acquire land so cheap, and I get that asked by so many people who don't do land as well. They're like, people in real estate are like, "Oh, land prices are skyrocketing right now." Like they're just so curious to how we buy them under market value, let alone 30% of market value, 40%. So we're going to dive into that. But before we get started, let's go over a question from one of our Land Investing Online members. Actually, they said, "My property is in a flood zone, but so are all the properties around it. Is this something I can still buy?"
You want to do some further due diligence for sure. So when something's in some areas are completely in a flood zone and there's houses built around it, and 90% of the time you're fine buying that property. You want to do deeper due diligence when things are like that. You want to call the county to see if they have, or the health department, see if they have any perk test on file or anything about this property that's saying that it can't be built on. But this is very common, and we buy properties like this. I think we're selling one right now like this, where basically the whole city's in a flood zone or a floodplain. But yeah, for sure, you can definitely buy it. Do a deeper due diligence. You also want to see, sometimes you'll see a flood zone where it's a creek or usually a creek that I see, and there's a creek that's causing the whole floodplain. You want to be more careful as you get closer to the creek, if that makes sense. So you'll see it if you're using MapRate. You'll see the creek. You want to be careful with the floodplains as you get closer. You want to have other properties that close that are being built on, essentially, if that makes sense. But yeah, for sure, you can. We buy that stuff all the time.
Yeah, the first thing I would check is click, like Ron said, if there's a creek around it and there's a flood zone, click wetlands and see if it's wet, because there's a difference between a flood zone and a wetland. Wetland means it's actively wet, right? Flood zone means there's a percentage every 100 years, there's a small percentage chance that that property is going to flood. But I encourage you to go look at the FEMA flood zone maps. Go out to cities like St. Petersburg, Florida, and look at how much properties are in flood zones. Go out to Phoenix is another one. Some cities in Kentucky, I think around Louisville, have some. So just go mess around with it, because it's possible. Just make sure it's not in a wetland, because that's when you'll actually be standing in still water. That's all I have on that. But yeah, that was a really good point, Ron. Let's jump in to today's topic. How do we acquire land so cheap? And by so cheap, Ron, what are we talking about?
50% market value, 40% market value, anywhere in there. Honestly, like if you're buying a $500,000 property for $300,000, that's 60%, but that is cheap in anyone else in any other part of real estate. But that's what I see, Dan. 40 to 60% or less of market value.
Yeah, I completely agree. And our average is right around, I'd guess, 37 to 42, maybe. Now it's going higher. It seems like we're getting more aggressive on pricing. But yeah, a lot of times we sending mail, there's 25%, 30%, 35%. And it really goes back to, it's a numbers game. So what do you see, Ron? Obviously, it's a numbers game. Do you want to dive into the mail and just the volume that it takes to get us these deals?
One thing I want to jump into first, Dan, is like, what's the mindset of someone selling something cheap, whether it's anything? I think the main thing is convenience. So if someone is selling something cheap, maybe they don't know it's worth double or something like that. Maybe they think it's worth a little more. But let's say I'm trying to sell like an old bicycle or something like that I have. Like, I'm going to sell to someone on Facebook who's willing to come pick it up because of convenience. So I think that's the main thing that motivates people to sell cheap. What was your question though?
No, I think let's stay on that path. So it's convenience for them. So then let's get into some reasons people are willing to sell so cheap. So you said convenience, but what are some other reasons you see? So they, by convenience, they just want money quick and it's easy, right?
Yeah, so we're offering them a 2 week cash offer essentially. Like they can get their money within 2 to 3 weeks, almost every time. Like obviously hiccups can happen in the title process. That's nothing we can take handle as that's nothing we can make go faster. Like sometimes it's just there's a longer title process because there's some kind of I don't know something with the deeds that is causing it to be a little longer. Um, yeah, like they want to get rid of something and get cash for it. That's what motivates them. Taxes, they're paying taxes every year on it, so it's costing them money every year. They try to maybe call a couple realtors. The realtors have no clue what they're talking about with land, or the realtors have no interest in selling land because that's not their specialty and they can't make much money in it, or they think they can't make much money in it. So really there's not that many options for these people other than selling to us, to be 100% honest, and we are the most convenient to be on as well.
Exactly. So actually, I want to bring up one thing too. So the convenience, if they need money and if they pay, and another one is they're just sick of paying taxes. That's another huge one. They've owned it for so long. They're sick of paying taxes. We hit them with the mail at the right time. They're willing to sell. But it's interesting because this brings me to another point. We sent out reviews to our sellers to kind of let us know how we're doing. And there's a lot of different questions in there. On a scale of 1 to 10, what they think of the overall process, what they like about it, what they dislike about it, all that stuff. And it is really incredible, actually, how good our feedback was from all of our sellers. And they're not sitting here saying, you guys screwed me over for buying it for 35% or 40% of what it's worth. They're saying the process was smooth. I got my money on time. Really good company to work with, things like that. So it just shows that convenience factor. We're doing what we're saying, and it just shows that brings value to them, because before sending that out, I knew we brought value to them, but I've never seen it in, so concrete like that. But them actually all pretty much saying the same exact things. And we didn't really have any real negative ones, to be honest. A couple slip ups we've had where, we had to cancel a deal and I don't know, or something like that, or something fell through. But 95% of them were very positive and just saying they needed the money, they got it on time, organized, convenience, all that stuff that Ron just talked about. Um,
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna wrap up that section if you had anything else to add on that, and then we'll get into the next part.
No, I think that I loved seeing those reviews and it makes me happy because we really, as a company and me personally, like we are very stringent on making the process as easy for them as possible. They don't need to leave their house. Like that's how easy we make it for them. I'll go send a notary to them to go sign the documents. I'll have the check or I'll have the wire sent directly to their bank account. Like they can literally sit on their couch, open the door one day for, they can text us the purchase agreement, open the door 2 weeks later for a notary and get those documents signed, and then they'll have their money later that day or possibly the next day in their bank account. Like that is what we push for. That's what we urge for. And I don't want to. I'll spend money to convenience them, if that makes sense. Like if they're acting like it is inconvenient for them to go find a notary or inconvenient for them to whatever drive anywhere, like I'm going to we train our transaction coordinator to make it as easy on them as possible, and that makes me really happy seeing those reviews.
Yeah, really good point. So let's get into the number aspects. Obviously, we're not just individually pricing out a piece of land and sending it to a landowner. We're sending out mass quantities to get this percentage back. So how do we, like, to be real short and simple, how do we acquire land so cheap? We send out a ton of offers, right? We're not
Mhm.
getting, our percentage is very small of what we get back. We send 2,000 and off letters and maybe get 2 deals out of it on average, 1 to 2 deals. So it's not like we pretty much, we're not getting focused on one property, right? We're just mass sending out, and that's this business model as a whole. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, mail's so cheap compared to people look at it like it's expensive, and it is the most expensive part of this business. But it's so cheap compared to what one individual mailer or what one individual piece of mail can bring you in terms of profit. You send 2,000 pieces of mail, you get one deal that makes you $15,000, which is very normal. Like you're making $14,000 on those 2,000 mailers. So it's really as simple as that, to be honest with you. But like Daniel said, staying on the topic of how we acquire so cheap, we don't need 10 people, 10% of people to be interested in selling their land. We need 100th of a percent, or maybe I don't know, 50th of a percent or something like that. So literally one out of every 2 or 3 thousand people we need to be willing to sell their good piece of land for under market value. So, and that's the people. Another point, Dan, and I was thinking about this. Another point is why these people sell so cheap is they're making money too. A lot of these people either inherited this land and paid $0 or maybe bought it for $5,000 20 years ago and they're selling it for 30,000. And those are real numbers where we're still going to make money as well. But yeah, the mass volume of mail, and we have a price on every single mailer, and that's what we teach you guys to do in our course is pricing mail. We usually price it by zip code. That's what we see the most effective thing. But we have 2,000 people getting these offers. One person is typically going to be very interested with a good piece of land.
Exactly. And then two other points I want to go over in terms of what Ron said is since we send out such a large amount of mail and we get such a large amount of deals back in terms because we're sending out so much, don't get too caught up on one deal. You're going to have people calling you saying, "Hey, can you offer, or can you pay $40,000?" And maybe it's worth $48,000 or 45 or 40 or whatever it is. Don't get too caught up on one deal. That's how we get so cheap. We send out mail and these people are calling us back wanting to sell and wanting to sell at our price or maybe a little above or below or whatever the situation is. But don't get too caught up on one deal because that's going to bring your margins down if you try to squeeze too much out of it. That's another reason. And that's big. As at first you can try to squeeze as much as you want, but as you grow, you won't get so caught up on these little deals that aren't really making you money. And then
Yep.
the other part is you got to have a dedicated salesperson in your team, whether it's you or your partner or you do everything or you hire someone negotiating down. So the deal doesn't make sense. We have 5 deals at this time that we want to we're paying too much for, say, and your salesperson or your sales job is to go back and try to get the price down. So maybe you think it's you want to pay 32,000, you offered 40. Let's come up with reasons why it's 32, go to them, and like I said, don't get too caught up. Give them the number, tell them why, and move on, and you'll be surprised how many deals come back like that. That's another thing I wanted to mention.
Yep. I think and that's funny you say that. As we forgot about individual deals, more of those come back. Like if you're thinking about it all day and you want to follow up every day, like, do you remember that offer I just made you? Like, are you interested in that? It's not how you get deals. Like it's moving on to the next thing. And the main thing to do, like when you have those dead periods, when you just want to blow someone up who you've already talked to a couple of times, send more mail instead of doing that. And I think that's what it's going to make you more money, obviously, sending more mail, but it's going to make you forget about individual deals and think about the mailer as a whole and the deals as a whole, and just your process. But like Daniel said, like having a salesperson, even if you have a 9 to 5 job, you're doing everything, you need to have, let's say you call everyone back at 6 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So anyone who called before that, you're calling back. And like I said, you're not going to always be able to answer the phone live, and that's fine. You'll get deals still. And then maybe Tuesday and Thursday nights, you price or you send the mail or you do some other part of your business. So you need times, like Daniel said, to call people back and to negotiate. And you cannot you'll get deals back, and those are the easy ones that are at the offer price and they're great. And that's the best deal to get back because it's easy, but you'll also be losing deals if you're not willing to negotiate with them up and down.
Yeah, and to give an example, I was on the phone with someone yesterday, actually, I think it was, and we offered like $12,000 or so, and he wanted, I think, 21,000. And maybe it might have made sense at 21,000 or whatever it is, but I wasn't just so immediate to give him that number. These people want to sell, and you can sometimes get those people at your offer price, and it's just interesting because they want the money now. The convenience factor, going back to that. And I ended up it's a really, really nice piece of land. Very, very, very nice. And I know I was going to go up, but I didn't want to seem too desperate. So I called him back later. I think I offered like 15.5 or 16.5 or something like that. And he was pretty immediate to come down and be like, yeah, that's fine. So don't jump to these numbers right away. Give it some thought. You got to read them. It's a sales job. You got to kind of read them and feel what they're thinking a little bit and feel it out. But don't just rush into their number. It would have still made sense at 21. I would have still bought it for 21, maybe whatever. But I just think rushing those numbers is kind of, you can overpay it sometimes.
Yep. Those people, like the sellers, like feeling, even if they're 100% set on selling and they would have accepted our $13,000 offer, they like feeling like they won a little bit and negotiated you up and got a little bit more money.
Hmm.
Um,
It's an
if
ego
Daniel
thing.
just accepted 21 and screamed like, "Yeah, I'd do 21," like, you might have a better chance of losing him, to be honest, because he's like, "What do I not know about this land? Like, is it worth way more than 21?" But Daniel's like playing the game as well. He's letting him win a little bit by getting him three and four more $1,000, and we can sell it for 40 to 45, I think. So that's a really good point, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all person to person. But you just go, if he says I want 21,000, you're like, oh, absolutely, send me the purchase agreement, 21,000. He's gonna be like, what else can I sell this for? How much more can I get from this? I'm gonna go check with my other
Yeah,
buddies. You know, like it just gets their wheels turning. So let them play the game. It's an ego thing at the end of the day. They're like, I'm gonna see what I can negotiate a little bit, you know? And they call you and they just want to win. Give them a little win if you need to, if it's good
yep,
property. But also there's plenty of deals where I just hold my ground. This one had a lake. It was nice, very nice. But there's plenty of deals where I'm just like, no, we can't go up because I see and feel how bad they want that convenience and money. Going back to what we spoke about. That's all I have,
yep.
Ron. What else do you have? Anything last remarks?
No, let's just wrap that up as far as like I think the question as a whole, how do we acquire so cheap? That's what the title is, or something like that. That's what the title is. So I think ideal we find locations that vacant land is desirable and that we think is going to have sellers. We send mass amounts of mail and then we negotiate with the sellers. Like it's as easy as that. It's difficult and you got to know the process at the same time. But I think those three things are what there's motivated sellers. I forgot to talk. We find motivated sellers. Like you got to pick those out. You don't know when you're sending the mail, like who's going to be motivated, but there's reason. And we give a lot of convenience for this. But I think that wraps it up as the process as a whole, how we acquire so cheap.
Yeah, great conclusion there. Thank you guys for joining. Visit landinvestingonline.com. Click the Start Here page. We have a free consultation, step 3. So you've joined our Discord, you watched our YouTube videos, and you're listening to our podcast. You're very interested in land investing. Take the next step, 15-minute call with Ron or I. It's a consultation. Bring anything you want to bring. Write down some questions, whatever. This is for serious people who maybe have some questions before making the leap. So visit landinvestingonline.com, click start here and go through that process. Other than that, that's all we have. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks, guys.